Hey everybody, welcome to the Bowfishing Buzz presented by AMS Bowfishing. My name is Matthew and I'm here with my good buddy D. Schmitty.
How's it going, everybody? Episode 14 already of the Bowfishing Buzz Podcast. We have a special guest with us today. We've been wanting to do this for a couple weeks now. We have Julie Schillinger, Matt's wife, with us today, and we're going to get to see the bowfishing world from the standpoint of a bowfisherman's wife. So, hi Julie, how you doing today?
Hey, Derek. Doing good. How are you?
Good. So I got a list of questions here, and both of you feel free to chip in at any point to answer these questions, all right?
All right.
This was all Derek's idea. He came up to me a couple weeks ago and said, hey Matt, let's bring your wife in here and do a point of view from a bowfisher's wife about bowfishing.
Absolutely.
Yep. So I was like, go ahead, run with it, buddy.
I figured that would be a good idea because I am not married, and I have had girlfriends in the past who have not been super thrilled when I'm gone 2, 3, 4 nights in a row out bowfishing. So I figured, man, we got to get these guys in here because Matt's bowfishing all the time.
A little bit.
Just a little bit. Every maybe once or twice a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
All right. So for the first question I have for you guys, Julie, did you hear about bowfishing at all before you met Matt?
Oh, yeah. The first time I ever went bowfishing actually was with Cindy Brown.
Oh, okay.
At our cabin on Mead Lake when I was, I was like a freshman in high school, so back in 1986. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time we ever went, and we went for carp.
Sure.
On Mead Lake, and we had a great time. We went in canoes, too.
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, her and I went on some canoe trips, bowfished, and shot some big carp. Yeah, so it goes way back to 86.
Sure. That's like you're like one of the pioneers of bowfishing. Back then there wasn't many people bowfishing. That's very cool.
No, there weren't many back then, especially women.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah, that's very
Yeah.
cool.
For those of you that don't know, when you said Cindy Brown, Cindy is the owner of AMS Bowfishing. Her father is the one who invented the retriever back in the 70s. Mm-hmm. And so you were friends with
Cindy. Yep, back in high school days. Yep,
Mm-hmm.
So we've known each other for a very long time.
Yep, I remember you had a bunch of old pictures at your cabin, wintertime and bowfishing and stuff like that.
Yep.
So yeah,
that's
back
cool.
in the mid-'80s.
Yeah, that's cool. So back when you guys went out bowfishing for the first time, I'm guessing Cindy was talking about bowfishing a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
What
yeah.
was your initial thought on the sport of bowfishing when you heard about it for the first time? Did you think it was crazy off the wall, or were you excited to start doing it, or what was your thoughts on that?
Well, I actually never even shot a bow before, so I had no idea what to expect.
Sure.
And then she's like, well, come on, let's try it. And I thought, well, might as well go and try it. And Jeff actually was there, too. Mm-hmm. So we all went out, and it was harder than I thought. I thought it was going to be easier. But once I got it, kind of got it down pat, then it got a little easier. And I don't know, it was really fun. We had a good time.
For sure. That's very cool. So the first time you shot a bow was at a fish. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Yep. That's very cool. Back with the old school retrievers back then, I'm guessing.
You want me to tell you why she was there?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
See, these are the kind of little juicy stories that I was looking forward to here.
Oh, great.
Let's get right into this one.
So Julie and I went to the same high school. She was a year ahead of me. Okay.
Oh, boy.
Cindy went to Abbotsford, which is another school about 30 minutes from here.
Yep.
All right. Julie used to go out with Cindy's cousin Brian.
Oh.
And that's how she knew Cindy.
Sure.
So she was dating Cindy's cousin.
Sure. Oh my gosh. That's actually, once you tie that all together and now you work here and do it all the time, that's actually crazy.
Yeah, see, he's the lucky one then.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Oh my gosh, I did not know that. That's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like we mentioned earlier, back then, that wasn't real popular.
No, not back then.
There was
at
no
all.
boats or nothing. Like you said, you're in canoes.
Yeah.
You know?
I remember you guys were in canoes. You used to canoe down the Yellow River and stuff like that. And,
Yeah.
and the Rock River and shoot at fish.
Her and I alone actually set out in a canoe down one of the rivers, and oh my gosh, we had a good time. Actually, we're going down the river, and all of a sudden, here comes a calf. Baby calf came out right by the water and was going to drink some water, and Cindy saw it, and she's like, what the heck is it doing? Well, here a farmer walked down then and said he lost a calf.
Oh
And
my
here,
gosh.
Yeah, so here the calf was, and he's like, what are you guys doing out there? And Cindy then explained to him that we were bow fishing, and he never heard of it either, so it was kind of cool.
That's funny you say that. The calf came down to the water. were you along? Was that the year you were in Kentucky? Is when that calf was down the bank in the Cumberland River?
No.
Okay, because we had that happen to us on the Cumberland River, and it's got, the banks are,
Right.
super steep, and it's all sand and washed away, and there was a calf that had fallen down
Oh, no.
on the bank, and it couldn't get up. We tried to get it up there, and it was just way too hard. We
Really?
couldn't get it up there.
Yeah, those banks, thinking about them now, I mean, you fall down, it'd be tough as a person to
Right.
climb up those
Yep.
steep banks.
Yep. Sorry to jump
No.
in on that, but I thought maybe you were along on that
No,
trip.
that was one of your many to Kentucky, probably.
I've only been there a couple times. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. So next question, Julie. What is it like being the wife of a bow fisherman who is gone for sometimes days/nights on end? Like when Matt goes on these Kentucky trips, what's it like?
Well, I'd say probably back in the beginning years, first married, it kind of got a little annoying because you want to do things together, and I didn't do a ton of bow fishing
Right.
at first. But then as time went on, I started bow fishing more with him, and then we just really loved to do it together. And we had a great time doing it together. But then as, we had kids, things change. I can't go as much because, somebody has to stay home and take care of the kids in the house, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, so I could go, though, whatever chance I had, I would definitely go with him. And, I mean, we had some great bow fishing trips together.
Oh, yeah.
We had a family bow fishing trip with the girls, and that was really neat, too. It was a great experience for them, and they weren't too thrilled about the bow fishing part. They were getting mad because they couldn't shoot the fish,
They
actually.
couldn't get the fish. They were a little deeper than what we were hoping they would be.
Yeah, but overall, it was just a great family trip.
Sure, absolutely. I hear a lot of guys, Matt, I'm sure you can second this, who say that, guys who shoot a bunch of tournaments or are always traveling all over the place, they say, my wife puts up with a lot. I'm always gone. She's always back home, and, the wives are the real MVPs in this situation.
There's no doubt about it. And like you said, years ago when we were, not newlyweds, we had been married for a couple of years, or quite a few years before I got into bow fishing. But then, we had kids and stuff like that, and we had 2 young girls, and they were, 3 years apart. So we were pretty close together. And, I'd come home from work and say, I'm going down to Castle Rock, I'm going to Pete, I'm going to Mississippi River. And only a handful of times you kind of gave me that look where I was like, well, I better not go tonight.
Yeah.
Well,
Otherwise, you always were like,
Well, the thing
that's
is-
fine, go ahead.
The thing is, it's it's a sport, it's a hobby, it's something you like to do. So I'm not going to sit there and whine about it because it's something that it's fun to do. I've done it myself, so now I know what it's
Right.
like, and so I know what you're out doing. I always know where you're at and everything, and want you to be safe out there. That's always the main thing. I always ask for sure, where are you going? So I know like what boat landing you're going to or what body of water and stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, so I know you're out there having a good time doing something you enjoy, and I just don't feel like I really want to take that away from you.
Yeah,
I like to
that's-
go shopping, so I get to do that sometimes.
There you go, trade-off. Yep, perfect. Julie, you mentioned that you experienced bow fishing, and so you kind of, you understood after you had gone. I think that's very important when it comes to hunting, bow fishing, normal, whatever hobby you have. If you're doing it a lot, if you can expose your husband or wife to do it so they can kind of understand why you love doing it so much, I think that can really help.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yep, getting rid of the invasive species. It's just, it's really neat. And it's good, like you said, to teach your kids, too, about it. And,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But along with that, once you kind of got into bow fishing and you enjoyed it, you liked it, you were having fun, you got into deer hunting.
Yeah.
You got into deer hunting for a couple of years there.
Yeah,
we would
rifle.
So from bow fishing,
Right.
you started to deer hunt also. You didn't archery hunt, but you rifle hunted
Yeah.
here in Wisconsin. And you'd get up in the morning. You wouldn't walk into your tree stands in the dark, though.
No, I'm scared. And you made me, though. You made me a couple times, and I went running, and I tripped over a log in the pitch dark and fell. And
Uh-oh.
thank God I had my clip, obviously in my pocket of my coat, but here I am running in the dark, and I'm out of breath, get to my tree stand. I can hardly breathe because, running through the woods because I was so scared.
Oh, man.
But, yeah.
The
was fun.
first year she took up rifle hunting, she was sitting in her own stand, and I was sitting somewhere else on the property, and I heard her shoot.
Oh, that's got to be exciting.
So I waited a little bit, and I went walking over there, And I looked up at the tree, and she looked down, and I could see blood dripping down. The old scope came back and cracked her.
Man.
Yeah.
That hurts.
Yeah. That was my first deer.
Yep. So I said, well, what happened? Well, I shot at a big doe that was right down there. I said, did you get it? She goes, no, it ran away.
And I was so mad. I said,
mad.
I go, it ran away. And he's like, what? And I said, yeah, it took off over there. And, I was so mad.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, then Matt
So then I got down, and I started looking
around.
around. Well, here, there's blood everywhere down there, and it ran a little bit.
And you said, are you sure you didn't hit that
deer?
deer?
I said, are you sure you didn't hit that deer? She goes, no, it just ran away. I was like, well, they don't just fall over.
Right, not all the time.
I said, I thought it did.
Yep.
But you made a perfect...
And he
You made a perfect chest shot on that big old doe,
that's
and they only
awesome.
went like 35 yards and it was piled up.
Sure,
You know?
sure.
Yeah.
Good
That
ethical
was
kill.
funny.
Yeah, that's cool. Just to touch on, you guys said you guys went to on a bowfishing trip with the girls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You were saying that those fish were in a little bit too deep of water.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you showing me footage of that trip.
Yeah.
You had a GoPro on a boomstick in
Right.
the water, and you guys were shooting. And I remember you said, you're like, gosh, the girls. It seems like they're right on these fish. They should be able to penetrate them. You were in. That had to be what, 5-6 feet of water you were shooting down
Yeah,
into.
it was deep. It was so crystal clear. It was those fish looked like they were right on the surface.
Sure. And I remember, the girls obviously weren't pulling back a ton of poundage on their bows.
Right.
But I remember there was a video clip that you showed me of a big old carp just swimming nice and slow. You got the GoPro on it, and all of a sudden you see an arrow come down, boop, it hit it right in the head.
Yep.
It hit the fish and boop, bounced off.
right off.
And you
Yeah.
guys are like, gosh, we're not hitting these fish. Well, you were. It's
Right.
just you weren't penetrating them.
Yeah. That was a really fun trip because we had everything loaded up before. That was our Carp Town, USA family bow fishing trip that year. And we stopped and picked the girls up from school.
Oh, cool.
And, we filmed the whole thing all the way out there, getting to our little cabin out there, and then getting to the lakes out there.
Sure.
It was a little bit of a rough ride, so we found a calm bay with some sandy beaches there, and we were shooting fish and stuff. And then we'd get out and let the girls walk in the sand and go in the water and stuff like that, you know. And it was a lot of fun. We shot I actually shot my biggest carp to that date on that trip.
Really?
It was a 35-pound common.
Oh, man.
And the funny part about it is the girls were kind of messing around with the cameras and stuff. We had a little handy cam.
Sure.
And I was shooting and you were shooting, and they were messing around with the cameras and stuff. They got the whole thing on film.
Really? Of you shooting that 35-pound
We
fish?
shot the 35-pound fish. We chased it down. You put the backup shot into it. We got it in the boat, and the whole time Macy was sitting there recording the whole thing.
Oh, my gosh. That's a family effort right there.
Yeah. That was a fun trip. We shot a lot of nice big commons. The scenery was awesome. The trees in the water, the trees, it's just so bow fishing has taken us on family trips as well.
Sure.
Just a lot of people go up north to go fishing or whatever. We went on a bow fishing trip out of state, to Carp Town, USA.
And I bet you the girls remember that trip forever.
They do. Yeah, they loved the cabin and just going out on the boat. They love to be outside.
Yeah.
And, just enjoying the outdoors.
Sure.
They just really do.
Mara our youngest had a blast trying to gaff the fish to bring them in.
Oh, yeah.
I bet you that was pretty tough if she gaffed one to lift them into the boat.
She didn't.
She couldn't lift them.
She got pretty wet from the fish splashing, but she never got to lift one up. But
Sure.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
She was little.
Yeah,
A lot of
absolutely.
fun.
I know I've been out on the boat with you two a couple times, and you guys are, you're two fun people to be out on a boat with.
He gets annoying sometimes.
Oh, here we go. Yeah. What does Matt do that you would consider as annoying while you're out bow fishing?
I don't know. I guess sometimes he thinks that he knows everything,
and
he'll tell me what to do. And I'm like, really? I actually bowfished before you did.
Oh, that's right. She's got that to go back on. That's a good argument right there. So I guess next question for both of you guys, since you guys, you're talking about the family trip, and you guys have obviously gone out bowfishing with each other, a lot. Do you guys have any funny, goofy memories you guys can recall out on the boat?
Matt fell in a few times.
I was with you guys once when you fell in.
A few times, once.
Oh, I think more than that.
With you in the boat?
Not with me in the boat.
I fell in once when you were in the boat.
But you just fell in, a couple weeks ago? Were you out with John?
Yeah, it was for the Worlds. We were scouting for the Worlds, and we had a stump, and I fell in.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so everyone knows, I was with when you fell in. I was with you guys that night. Mm-hmm. I've never seen. I'm guessing that's like what a bird dog does when it locks into a pheasant. We were chasing a fish, and Matt just locked in. And I'm looking ahead, and here's this little, like, it was a little island, wasn't it?
It was an island.
And Matt's just chasing this fish down, and I'm like, wow, we're getting shallow. And all of a sudden, I think you were starting to draw back to shoot at the fish, and all of a sudden the boat just stopped on a dime, and you went ass over tea kettle over the boat. And I'm sitting there like, oh, I should have warned him or something. But I think you were so zoned in, it didn't matter if there was a big rock bluff. We were going to hit that son of a gun. Yeah. Yep.
Tunnel vision, baby.
Yep. Anything to get the fish.
Yep.
Wow.
Anything to get the fish.
I was more worried about my cell phone because I had my cell phone in my pocket.
Of course.
That's the first thing I reached for, and I pulled it up out of the water.
I
think I gave it to you.
We were down in Kentucky 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Taking pictures with big heads. You made that big head video.
Yep.
Where they were sucking sheep from the
Shooting
shorelines.
the elusive big head.
Yep.
Big mouth.
Yep. Yeah, if you guys don't know what video we're talking about, it's on our YouTube channel. Matt wrestles a big old big head. That's just a whole nother story for itself. So you'll have to go check that one out. But we were taking pictures of fish. And I'm sitting there and I'm getting every angle that I possibly can and looking at the viewfinder. I'm like, oh, we got some really cool stuff. And all of a sudden I'm sitting there and I'm probably up to my belly button in water.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, my phone's in my pocket.
Yep.
My phone's in my pocket. And I took it out and it didn't turn on. Then it did turn on and it would turn on and it was working. It would get so warm that it was almost like, it like hurt to have it in my hand.
Right. Yeah.
And it was kaput after that.
Yep.
That always sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have ever had a cell phone situation. That one, remember that night? I think it got wet, but it still worked.
It still worked. Yeah. Yep. I didn't lose nothing on it.
Yeah.
Got lucky.
That always sucks.
No, I put mine away.
I know that's what we should do, but you're always looking at it for maps and stuff. It's nice to have it, out and readily available.
Yep.
We're just ready for pictures and
Yep.
stuff. He's always doing that.
Right. Just as long as we keep the expensive camera out of the water. That's
Yeah.
that's more important than a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
So
No, it's not.
yeah. Sometimes with the cameras that are on these cell phones nowadays, they can replace a big fancy picture taking camera.
They're pretty crazy. Yep.
Yeah. So next question for you guys. You guys were talking about the family trip, and we've been talking about, all the trips you guys have been on. Do you guys have a favorite bow fishing experience together? Or Julie, do you specifically have a favorite bow fishing experience?
That's really a hard question because there's so many, and all of them. I mean, we had a great time on every trip we've been on.
Sure.
One that kind of sticks out a little more probably is in Delaware, stingrays. That was really an awesome trip, and there's so many different stingrays which I never knew.
Sure.
That they're, the southern and the cow nose. I never knew that. So we were out with Corey Brossman and Joy. They're great people, and we had a really good time with them at their camper. I'm trying to think. Kentucky, of course, that's always a great time there, too, with the big heads, with Dennis Redden. Oh, that was amazing.
Well, I had been going down by Dennis for years.
Yeah.
Shooting these big heads and buffs and some grassies here and there and stuff like that. And every time I come home, she'd be like,
I want to shoot one of those.
Take me down there to shoot some of them big heads.
They're so huge. They're cool.
So, I don't know if it was in 2014 or something like that. You and I went down and stayed with Dennis
I think
at
it
the
was
cabin for a week there. And you shot your first big head down there. You shot you shot silvers on the Illinois River before that. You shot the silver. That was another trip we went on years ago.
Yeah, but I couldn't shoot them when they're the flying silvers. Remember that?
Why?
You could shoot them and I couldn't because I missed every time when they're flying in the air. Remember when we had the boat?
So before you said you get mad at me because you think I know more about bow fishing?
Oh.
No, you can just hit them when they're flying in the air, and I can't.
They're not actually flying; they're just jumping.
Well, jumping, same thing.
That's tough to hit
Same thing.
airborne fish. That's got to be.
That's hard. I mean, I came close, but I never could get them. But Matt was good at it.
That trip to Kentucky with Dennis, you were actually you got down there when the shooting was just phenomenal for a couple of years there, with some of those giant big heads. Some of those big heads that we shot that day were 60 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
I was running the camera on that trip, and you and Dennis and Damien were shooting all those fish up there. And I remember when we first rolled up there, when we first got there, we rolled up there, all the silvers were on the surface, and you were like, "Oh my gosh," And we're just letting you shoot. We're just letting you shoot, and finally we're like, okay, now Now start picking fish.
Right.
Start selecting and finding a fish. Because what happens down there is there's so many big heads, there's so many silvers in that area that I think they actually push the big heads down.
Sure.
The big heads don't like to be on the surface. And all of a sudden, ploop, you'll see a big head come up. But as soon as he comes up, he's not up very long, and he's trying to get back down. But there's so many silvers that he's got a hard time getting back down. That's when you got to shoot that big head. Because we were down there shooting all those silvers and some of them big heads. A storm came up. We had to.
You got soaked.
I actually got to the boat launch and dropped them off in time. And by the time they got the truck, it was storming so bad I had to go underneath the bridge and wait underneath the bridge. Yeah, while they were in the vehicle, I was underneath the bridge.
Oh my gosh!
But then we went back out there, and that's when it was crazy with the big heads. And then Damien also had some big grass carp up there. It was just you actually hit that.
I shot some grass carp there too in Kentucky. Remember, just you and I alone.
Yes,
in a boat.
that's when you and I went to the lake then and shot some grass carp on the lake.
And we shot some big ones. Yeah,
that was a really fun trip. And then we ate the big heads. That we had that big head deep fried.
And that honestly is the best fish I've ever had in my life.
Yep.
And you would never think, that when you pull them in and they're kind of stinky, but Dennis prepared them right away, put them on ice, and took them back and fried them up, and they were excellent.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting.
We did the same thing in Maryland when we were out with Corey on those stingrays. We fried some of them up on the grill as well and had some wing meat from those stingrays.
Sure.
You didn't like it?
No, not a fan.
It was a little tougher.
I'm not a fan of stingray.
It was a little tougher, but we were eating it and using it and stuff like that.
Right.
But that was a really fun trip too, like you said, because when we're on these trips, we're also we'll take a day off and just go. Like we went to the Ocean City that day and just went to the boardwalk.
Sure.
And walked around in Ocean City there and. Really neat town, and went out for some special fish buffets and stuff like that, and tried a sampling of a bunch of different species at the buffets and stuff like that. So when we're on those trips, we're not bowfish, all the time.
Pretty much, though.
Yeah.
Some trips are like that, but you get to. Yeah, it's nice to take a little bit of a break too, because I know a lot of people. I'll get people messaging me from the trips that I've been on with you. Oh man, you get to go bowfish. That's awesome. And yes, it is absolutely amazing that we have the opportunity to go and do that. But after 4 or 5 days of bowfishing during the day, going out at night, you guys both know it can turn into a grind.
It's exhausting, yeah.
I
don't know how he makes it.
Matt doesn't sleep, so he can just cancel that aspect of everything out. He'll go, I remember one time you were up for like 50 straight hours for a tournament. You were telling me about it.
Yeah.
No sleep, nothing.
I know.
And you're just chipper, bright-eyed, and bushy-tailed.
The
all
adrenaline.
good to go.
Yep. Well, Derek and I were just down in the Mississippi River here Friday night, and we loaded the boat up and started heading home, and I don't think we were 20 miles down the road, and he was out.
No.
Out.
You were?
No.
Yeah.
I don't even think I fell asleep that whole drive home.
I asked him a question, and it was like he had been drinking Jägermeister for 37 hours. He was like, hey.
Whenever I fall asleep, I'm just scared that you take pictures of me. Did you take some pictures?
I did.
Okay.
I got some good ones of you.
Yeah, there's some bad. The worst ones are when I'm about to fall asleep, and then I see the flash of the camera, so I'm like, and I come to, and I look like possessed. I look ridiculous. Yeah, you're always taking pictures. But I do have one picture of when Matt fell asleep.
Yeah, because I told you to take over driving.
Because you were too tired from shooting a tournament, so I had to drive. Yep. I was fine. I was awake. I had no problem. And I got a picture of you sleeping.
I did fall asleep once.
Once.
I remember when you told me to take over driving, you're like, hey, I got to get some shut-eye. He said, so I'm going to need you to drive home. And he goes, I remember right before he fell asleep, he goes, just don't crash the boat and truck, or I might have to beat you up. He was totally joking, but I was like, okay, all right, time to zone in and be safe.
But actually, we weren't heading home from that tournament. We were heading down to Kentucky to do more bowfishing.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason I was awake is because I think I was like working a booth or something. I didn't shoot the tournament that you did.
Right.
So I was just on normal hours, and you had been scouting for a couple days.
That was for the U.S. Championship.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Down in Missouri, so we were coming back from Missouri after the tournament on Sunday morning, and we were going back down to Kentucky to do some more bowfishing.
Yep. You guys scouted and shot the UBC, and then I think I ran a booth at Bass Pro.
Yep.
Met you guys at weigh-ins, and that was you hadn't slept in a long time, so went down there.
So I let you sleep for a couple hours. Or I let you drive for a couple hours.
Yeah.
And then you slept for the rest of the 8 hours.
I know. Just you guys talking about that trip down to Kentucky. I remember watching some of that footage.
Yeah.
That footage is crazy.
That was fun.
That was. I mean, you're talking. At any given point, I mean, at least from what it looks like in that footage, you had hundreds of fish around you surfacing, especially after you said, it rained and you guys went back out, and you kind of get that like still humid heat.
Oh, it was like we were sitting in a oven.
Sure.
It was just so
was
hot
great.
and muggy.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm all about heat.
it's too hot here. It's too hot here today. I wish it was 50 degrees here.
Oh,
I want fall. I
no,
want fall.
not me.
Do you remember the first tournament you shot with me?
Oh my God, I thought I was gonna die. I think at what time was it? 2 or 3 in the morning. My head was bobbling. I'm standing in the front of the boat,
Sure.
and my head started just to bobble, and I'm like, oh, I better sit down or I'm gonna fall in. That was tough, but that was the time you shot a fish, and then you were gonna take it off, and then it came down, and
The first fish of the tournament.
yes, first fish of the tournament
His barb
came down.
and drove into
His thumb.
into my knuckle. And we couldn't pull it out because he has barbs on there. So we just cut it as close as we could to the fish.
Disgusting.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. And he shot like that, and I couldn't understand how he
Shot
could
the
even
rest of the
do
tournament that way.
Like that.
Then we went in the next morning to the
To
ER to
the
get it
ER,
pulled out.
yep. And then they took an X-ray of it, and you could see all the barbs on it.
Oh, I remember
you
that
could
seeing
see it
that
way
picture.
underneath inside my knuckle. You could see it inside there.
You're lucky that didn't get infected or
I
something.
know.
You know, and I
Fish
never knew about that until that happened.
that they were barbed.
That can happen. You know, it was outer barb on there. I don't know what that exactly is called on them.
Right.
But it buried itself in there. But I've heard of other people getting that into their shoe, into their foot and stuff like that, and into their hand area. But then if you look at our barrels after the AMS Big 20 weigh-ins,
Yep.
there'll be a whole bunch of holes in those barrels. And you're like, what the heck is that from? And if you look, you'll find some of them barbs that are stuck into the barrels yet. It's crazy. There's a bunch of them.
Sure.
You know, and
Sure.
they're thick.
Yeah.
They're solid.
Yeah. I'm surprised. I didn't never have thought that you could have broke one off, into a barrel or a thumb, but I guess you can.
Yeah, well, I
He had
was
to
taking
cut
it
it
off the
off.
point, so I had to slide my point through the fish. So when I did that, the fish came sliding down the shaft,
Yep.
and then went right
man.
into there.
Right in there. And he looked, I can just picture your face now. He looked at us, at
Well,
me and
I
Derek,
couldn't-
and
the
he's
fish
like,
was stuck. I couldn't. hold
it's
the fish.
stuck.
Right?
I'm like,
Oh,
what?
gosh.
And then he showed us, and then he had to cut off the rest of the fin. So here he had that thing stuck in there.
Man, that
And he bowfished
just...
the rest of the night like that.
I
Sounds
still have that
painful
barb.
just thinking
I
about
still
it.
have that barb.
Oh, really? That's a cool little souvenir.
I still have it, and the doctors gave it to me.
Nice,
Sure.
nice ER visit.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's a fisherman's version of getting a hook in their hand. Instead,
Yeah,
you got
right.
a carp.
I guess there was one carp that got even with me and all.
Yep. There you
Yeah.
I put into the manure pits.
go. Sure. Yeah. Matt and I, we were out, like you said, down shooting some fish this past weekend. That was fun. Going exploring at least for me, exploring some new areas. It is so beautiful down in that area. You kind of get down in the bluff country with the river bottom and everything.
Yeah, we were down in the Mississippi River in the La Crosse, Wisconsin area. Man, like you said, it's beautiful. The bluffs, the ridges, the water,
Yeah.
the rivers. It's so much more different than further south of here, where you have, here it's only deep in between the channel markers.
Right.
Once you get to the channel markers, you better slow down, And I like shooting the river. There's some big fish down there. Our biggest fish that night was a
29.4, I think.
29 pound,
Yeah.
4 pound common. The drum were out really good that
Yeah,
night.
those were some of the biggest drum that I've ever experienced shooting
that was
before. They
pretty
had
cool.
some bellies on them
They
too.
did. They did.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
They're fun to shoot, or usually in current, leading to clear water, so you can get a shot or two off at them. Yeah, that was fun.
Right. But then the next night, our buddy Jody went back down there to shoot in a female competition bowfishing tournament there, and they shot a 40-pound common.
Man,
gosh.
Yeah.
He was down in that similar area, or
Just
just
on a river.
Okay, sure, that's
Yeah,
cool.
he shot a 40-pound common. So
Wow.
I know there wasn't much around for the Worlds when it was there this year, but there's some big fish in the river up here.
Absolutely. One thing I wanted to ask you, Matt, I was sitting there, we were shooting the other night, and you got your phone out, you're looking at maps and everything, and as you know, the river is a different animal compared to, shooting lakes and bigger bodies of water with all the sandbars and everything that can pop up in the middle of shooting.
Yep.
I was amazed with how you could keep track of, one, where we've been, and two, there's a couple different times we'd get hung up on a sandbar or something, and how you could know which way to go so that we'd get out to deeper water. Do you have any kind of putting you on the spot here? I know. Do you have any kind of strategies or tactics to try to keep track of where you're navigating throughout the night, or is that just all kind of instinctual from doing it over the last couple of years?
It's being in certain areas and being there multiple times.
Sure.
But everything changes year to year down there so much.
Right.
But mainly, like those sandbars you're talking about, where they run out just because they're coming from upriver. You know where they're coming through by looking at the maps before, and you can kind of see them on maps.
Sure.
So you have to go that way to get back around them because it's not going to get deeper when you go up into them.
Right.
It's going to get shallower before it gets deeper again because all that stuff is running down when it's floods, and they just kind of like snowdrifts, they build up here and there and stuff like that.
Sure.
But every year there's new ones that weren't just like, man, where'd this come from? This wasn't here last year. Right. 2 years ago, this wasn't here. It's just knowing, and like I said, going back to those spots multiple times, knowing where you are, because like you said, down there, it's super easy to get turned around.
Oh, yeah.
There because you can get back into some cuts and stuff, and it's, yeah.
Or to accidentally beat your boat or get stuck somehow, and like you're stuck bad.
Yeah.
And if you can move get out and move the boat or somehow loosen it up, you might make yourself stuck even worse depending on which direction you go.
Yeah, especially if there's a strong current. Current can just keep pushing you on top of that sand.
Right.
Just keep pushing you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It
can be sneaky. There's been boats stuck on, airboats stuck on sandbars down there, and it's it's a 3-hour deal getting out of there.
Yeah. I know there was a couple times we were going through some real tall, weedy grass areas. I mean, we were standing on the deck, and it was a foot or two
we were going through rice fields.
And I'm thinking to myself, oh, my God, I hope Matt knows where he's going because I can't see. And then we'd eventually get out into the main channel or into an area. I'm like, I have no idea how he just predicted that. That happened multiple times. But,
you just know what direction you're kind of heading.
Sure.
I didn't tell you, but I was following a light on the other side.
Oh, okay.
I was following.
See, he knows so much.
I was just following. I knew that I had to get back to the boat. We were on the Wisconsin side. Of the river. And we put it on the Minnesota side. So I knew I had to go to the Minnesota side to back to the trailer. And as we were down in that area, I looked at the phone, and then I looked at the boat launch, and I looked, and then I picked out an orange light.
Okay.
And I kept tracking that orange light.
Sure.
But then also from that, you can tell by on your maps how far these rice fields come out and stuff like that. So you know that's you're gonna pop through to another channel that opens up, and then you're gonna go into more grass and another channel and more grass. That's just the way that whole bottom end is. And that's a good spot for all those carp and drum also. That's why I like to go to those spots.
Right. Yeah, carp and drum. And you know what I'm going to talk about here now. We pulled up into one spot. And we're sitting there, and we threw our arrow out in the water, and we're just getting ready. Oh, this spot looks pretty good. And I look down, and there's a big old buff just beelining for the front of the boat. It's going to go under the boat. And I'm reeling as fast as I can, and I'm not going to get a shot at it. I think you ended up getting a shot at it.
But I was like...
It was like straight
the boat.
Yeah. That was the biggest fish we probably saw that night.
And then it went up into the weed line there and came right back out nice and smooth, and he was out into the deep by the time we got. Yeah. That's what happens because we were coming down the main channel. And we were running wide open. And then I wanted to go to that little chute there, so I turned into that chute and I slowed her down. And as we were slowing down, we got up and got our stuff. But as we did this, that motion pushed that buff up from that deep, because right there was that weed line, and we pushed him up into that. And he didn't want to go into that weed line. Did you see that?
Yep.
He came at us. We shot. He went back into that weed line he went into it about that far, and he came back out, and he was heading back out to deep water.
Yeah.
Buffs love those edges like that.
Yep. So
you had a nice buff on too that
just pulled out on me somehow. Lost him. It was a longer shot too, and I think I kind of you kind of get those shots. You're like, nah, I'll take a poke, I guess. I think I should have drawn back a little bit further to get a little bit more
nice
penetration. Buff. And he ended up getting away from us. That's always that's a terrible feeling when you lose a nice fish. Oh man!
One of these times, what we're going to do on the podcast here is we're going to have a video up of us down there shooting on the Mississippi River, and it's legal here in Wisconsin to shoot catfish. We saw some nice catfish out
Yeah,
that night
we
in
did.
crystal clear water. And we're actually gonna shoot a couple of those fish that night and have a cooler with ice on it.
Sure.
And we're gonna flay those fish out and show you how we prep those fish, because I didn't bring a cooler along that night. We didn't bring any ice along that night. We just had our tub of
Right.
where you're putting the carp and drum and gar and stuff like that. So we didn't have anywhere to put them. So we weren't gonna shoot them.
Right.
But we're gonna have a podcast on where we're gonna shoot somebody's catfish and then prep them and eat them.
Sure.
I think that'd be a cool little segment.
Absolutely. I bet you they'll be delicious.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Taste-
And that
tastes
water was
great.
crystal clear. We should have awesome footage of shooting some of those fish. So
Sure.
we didn't see nothing huge, nothing ginormous, or nothing like that. But
No.
there were some nice, 15-pound catfish,
Yeah. Yeah.
10-pound catfish, which are great eaters.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we were talking about going out in the fan boat and shooting all these fish. I had a gentleman by the name of Jonathan message me on Instagram. He was he's all excited about the podcast. He likes listening to him, and he had mentioned that this past weekend he shot in his first tournament.
Oh, cool! Good
With
for him.
he's going through the process of he's got his own boat, and this was the first tournament that he shot in his new boat. So I just wanted to highlight Jonathan for
Heck yeah.
going through that process, and
You
that's
bet.
awesome. Keep shooting, keep tinkering with the boat. I think it's safe to say you're probably addicted at this point.
Oh yeah, the bowfishing bug has bit him.
Absolutely.
And good job on getting out there and getting into your first tournament with your new boat. That's great. That's like I always say, it's an awesome spot to become friends with other bowfishers. You'll learn so much more. You learn different styles of boats. You learn different techniques, different things to put on your boat. And of course, there'll be friends that you
Oh, absolutely.
become friends with, and you'll be friends with them for a long time.
Yeah, and I think that I feel like that first tournament, that's what takes the most guts. To get a boat, start shooting fish. I'm gonna start shooting tournaments. That first one, if you can shoot that first one and have a good experience with it, I think that really opens the door for you shooting lots more down the road.
Absolutely.
You know what
No
I
doubt
mean?
about
Kind of
that.
getting your feet wet, breaking the ice a little bit, and just seeing what it's all about, and you experience it and how cool it is.
Yep.
I think it's safe to say Jonathan's going to be shooting some more tournaments in the future.
I wouldn't doubt it one bit.
Yeah.
Good luck out there in those tournaments.
Absolutely. Matt, you got some bowfishing news that you wanted to share
I do.
with us
I
on
got
the
a little bit of
podcast.
some bowfishing news here. So I just saw this, that the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife is advising boaters on the Kentucky Lake and Barkley Lake to be on the lookout for yellow buoy marker flags. Between those two flags, there's nets to capture Asian carp.
Oh,
So they are advising boaters to go wide if they see those markers on the lakes. They're trying to collect Asian carp and remove them from the lakes. So,
very good.
and then also, we're gonna kind of be doing this throughout our shows. We're gonna be giving a shout out to some of the people that got BAA records.
sure, absolutely.
On there. So congrats to Todd Downs on his BAA South Dakota State record mere carp weighing 24.9 pounds. Austin Gearhart, sorry about that, on his BAA Pennsylvania State record butterfly carp weighing 19.6 pounds. That was a really cool looking fish.
Absolutely. Those are very unique looking fish.
That's one that I have never seen a butterfly carp in the waters, and I know if I saw one, I would probably miss it.
Yeah, you get butterfly fever.
Yep. Congratulations to Tim Hammond on his BAA Minnesota State and BAA World Record Golden Shiner, 0 pounds, 0.8 ounces.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Oh my gosh.
That's skill right
Think
there.
about that for a second. You've got the world record, and it weighs 0.8 ounces. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Good shoot on
absolutely.
that little golden shiner there. And young Chloe Johnson on her BAA Florida Youth State record gizzard shad weighing 2.2 pounds.
Oh heck yeah, the youth. That's awesome. That's very
Yep.
cool.
So we're going to be doing a couple of them. When they pop up on the Facebook page there, we'll be adding them to our podcast as well. And then next week, or in our next podcast, episode 15.
Yep.
All right. Coming up October 10th is going to be bidding for the BAA Worlds tournament for next year, 2020. The two bids that are in, we've got the South Dakota bid, which is going to be taking place in the city of Brookings on May 30th, and the host is going to be Lance Wheeler. And that event is going to be taking place on the Missouri River, Lake Francis Case, Lewis and Clark, Roy Lake, Blue Dog, Bitter, Wabae, Lake St. John, Lake Albert, Lake Thompson, Lake Sanaya, Whitewood Lake, and Lake Henry. You know what's funny about some of them lakes?
What's that?
I've ice fished several of those lakes.
Really?
Yeah. Years ago back, oh God, that's got to be 20 years ago when I used to go out there and bowfish on those lakes. Giant perch, just huge
Ice
perch.
fish
fishing.
on those lakes, yeah.
And then you and I went on a trip out there and fished on one of these lakes. I'm not going to say which one it is.
Big.
Oh, all right. I'm adding that to the GPS.
I remember that.
You and I went out there open water fishing, and we were catching them giant bluegills.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
That's when we had the cabin to ourselves, or that hotel, remember?
No,
Isn't it that
my
one?
gosh, your
Where was
memory's
that one?
awful. That was up in Minnesota on Lake.
Oh, Mille Lacs.
That was
maybe.
not on Mille Lacs.
Where was that one?
That was on Leech Lake.
See, we go too many places, and I.
That was
That's
on
a
Leech
good
Lake.
problem to have.
That
You
was
can't
an
keep your
awesome.
trip
That was
straight.
ice fishing.
Yeah, right.
We had this whole motel overlooking this lake to ourselves. It was all to ours.
Yep.
And we had the hot tub, the sauna, the
Swimming
pool
pool.
all to ourselves. Well, we were up there ice fishing. We didn't have any swimming gear on, so we went running down the hallways in our underwear and we went jumping
Yep.
in.
Oh,
Yeah.
my goodness.
I have a picture of Matt posing by the pool.
Oh, I'm sure.
In his
Yeah.
whitey tighties.
That sounds like a Matt thing to do. Absolutely.
Yep. So Lance Wheeler will be on next week as a special guest, and we're also going to have Jeremiah Hayes on. He is the one that's going to be putting up the bid for the Tennessee River.
Sure.
Out of Huntsville, Alabama on May 30th. And that will, if it gets bidded in, will be on the Tennessee River from New Johnsonville Bridge to everything south of Kingston I-40 Bridge. Premium members, you get to vote for free. If you're just a standard member, it's $10 to vote. But all the proceeds will go towards the payouts in the 2020 Worlds as well.
Sure.
So we're going to have Lance Wheeler and Jeremiah Hayes on. They're going to be telling us why you should vote for one of their bids, South Dakota or the Tennessee River.
That's cool that they're gonna be on back to back. We're gonna get to hear it from both. We're gonna get to everyone listening is gonna get to hear why each of the hosts thinks that it should be at their given location.
Right.
That's very cool. Just that's a little side note. That's funny you were mentioning about South Dakota ice fishing perch. Last 2 years I've been up to North Dakota, Devil's Lake, ice fishing perch. We'll be out there, and some of the guys we know up there be like, "Oh, what do you do?" "Okay, I work for AMS Bowfishing." They're scared of carp up there because they don't want them in Devil's Lake.
Oh, really?
Because it's such a big industry up there. Is the guided fishing and people coming up there to resorts
Walleye
to
fish.
walleye
Yes.
fishing, the big perch, and I guess there was a couple smaller lakes that did have some carp show up, and they said over like a decade span, they don't fish those lakes anymore.
Really?
Because the carp would, kind of, they're invasive species. They'd kind of take over. So it was just funny. I mentioned up there, yeah, we shoot a lot of carp. And, you guys ever hear of any out here at all? We try not to, we don't want them out here. They were all kind of scared about them. They didn't want them out there. So just a little side note. That was interesting that they're in South Dakota.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully they don't work their way up into the, prime fishing lakes up there.
Yep. You got any advice for female bowfishers out there?
I think the main thing is that women just need to go out and try it for themselves. And I think once they do and they shoot their first fish, they'll be so excited that they'll want to go back again. I mean, I myself prefer daytime fishing because I love the sun. So I like to be warm. And so I prefer that. But nighttime fishing is also fun because it's just totally different, So just get out there and have a great time, and you'll figure it out. I mean, you might get frustrated. It gets frustrating at first, but then once you get it, then you'll be really excited and you'll be hooked.
Sure.
Right.
Absolutely. I know we've said this on previous podcasts. It is so cool at the AMS Big 20 and other tournaments. You'll see all women teams roll into weigh-ins. It's like, heck yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep, and there's no doubt you're seeing a lot more females, getting involved in the sport of bowfishing. You're seeing a lot of their pictures on social media.
Yep.
They're going out with their boyfriends, their husbands. They're getting them out there and stuff. So awesome. The more we have, the better it is. The more fun we have.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think that can wrap up that segment of the podcast. To finish us off here, I think we can do a quick AMS product highlight. And this week, Matt, I think we should talk about the AMS Combo Kit.
Ooh, that's one of our most popular kits.
Absolutely.
No doubt. Hands down, the AMS Combo Kit is great. It's awesome because a lot of us have an old bowl that's just laying around.
Yep.
We're not using it. It's in the garage collecting dust. It's in the basement. You're not using it. It can be an old compound, an old recurve. It can even be a longbow.
Yep.
You know, you pick up the AMS combo kit. It's very cheap. It's like $160. It's got the 610 Retriever Pro on there with 200-pound line.
Yep.
You've got the tidal wave rest. You've got 2 AMS arrows with the safety slides and chaos points. Put it on your bow, and you're out bow fishing in a matter of minutes.
Yep.
Very popular. Very popular.
Absolutely. I was down at NASP, the Archery in the Schools program this year in Kentucky, running a booth down there. And a bunch of parents come up, their kids are shooting the Genesis bows at the targets and whatnot. And they're like, hey, can we put these, this combo kit on these bows? Mm-hmm. Yes, you can.
Yep.
And the kids are like, oh, Mom, I want one really bad. I really, really want one. Can you buy one for me, please, 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 please? And they just go crazy. It's so cool that, anyone can buy a combo kit, whether you're shooting a tournament in your serious boat or if you're a kid who's never done it before.
Heck yeah.
In a matter of minutes, you're ready to go, ready to rock and roll.
Yep, no doubt about it. So, yeah, it's a great kit, If you're looking for that kit to get you going out there or interested in getting in the sport of bow fishing, the AMS Retriever Pro Combo Kit is the best thing out there for you. Very easy to use, very simple to set up, no buttons to push, and everything on there made in the USA,
Absolutely.
baby.
We're very proud to be able to state that.
Made in the USA.
Yep, absolutely. And just something I wanted to wrap up with, guys. Jonathan had messaged us. If you guys have any questions or anything that you guys want to ask us, feel free to message us on social media, and we can, jump into your questions on the podcast.
Thanks for coming down.
Yeah, thanks, Julie.
No problem. It was
All right.
fun.
From all of us AMS Bow Fishing, remember, aim low.
And think big. Thanks for listening, guys.